Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is ATACS, episode 8. Adults talk about cool stuff, where we get together on a roughly bi-weekly basis, talk about video games, or sometimes some other stuff, so long as it's cool. That is the requirement to talk on ATACS. Joining me on our virtual roundtable this week is Mr. Flex from Raleigh, North Carolina. Hello, Flex.
Hey, how's it going, Paul? I think you're a cool guy, Paul. Does that mean we can talk about you?
Absolutely. I am the coolest guy. This is a
All right.
little known fact.
I got my topic
So-
for this week then.
All right. Also joining us from the great metropolis of New York City. I got you this time. Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Doing all right?
Yeah, keeping busy.
Keeping busy?
You know.
That's
You know how it goes.
that's good. Also, joining us from one room over in my house is the beautiful Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi there. If you're a video game or if you're a cool thing to talk about, I think I got Flex beat. I think I won.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. So,
Yeah.
and also, last but not least, Mr. Nate from Wendell, North Carolina.
I want to be cool stuff.
Well, I mean, there's a lofty bar out there, so I mean,
Okay, I'm gonna work on this for next time.
all right.
I don't know. I already married him. I don't really know.
I mean, I will say that, Nate, I'm pretty sure that your beard does get you entry into the cool club.
Okay,
That's
So-
true.
I'll just keep working on that and maybe.
I think you're good there.
Okay.
And I am your host, Paul from Atlanta, Georgia, and we are here to talk about video games. We've had some offline conversations and discussions back and forth, and all of us have been in a video game frenzy, it seems like, here in the last couple of weeks. I know I've been playing quite a few things, but it'd be impolite for the host to start out talking first. So, Flex, what's been on your plate recently?
Oh yeah, I've not as much this past week, but last weekend and the week before, I did get some good solid gaming time. So I got two things to talk about. We'll start with, I guess, the bigger one. I grabbed a hold of Nioh from Team Ninja and have put a decent chunk into that. It's a lot of people like to describe it as like a Souls-like game, and I can see where they'd get that because it kind of has like a similar like methodical pace to it. We're exploring these zones and like kind of has, dare I say, Souls-like combat.
So,
You can say it.
And then yeah, but then coming from the Team Ninja people, it's funny because the combat to me feels as much like Ninja Gaiden as it does Souls, because it's got that tightness that Ninja Gaiden has that the Souls games kind of don't quite have. And I think that works out really well for it. And that's
so
that's,
is it the Dark Souls of Ninja Gaiden or the Ninja Gaiden of Dark Souls?
Well, I don't think anyone ever describes anything as the Ninja Gaiden of anything, so I guess to go with the trend, it would have to be the Dark Souls of Ninja Gaiden. But I don't know. I feel really dirty saying either one.
Fair enough.
I mean, it would be more Ninja Gaiden if there were like really, really big boobs everywhere. Because that's like about the only thing I remember from
Yeah.
playing the old games.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right. So yeah, I guess in that sense, it's maybe more Dark Souls. But the weird thing about that game, which I wasn't expecting as much before it came out, is like they just throw like layers and layers and layers of like systems and gear and skill trees, and just like they loaded like tons of crap on top of it. Like the core, like when you're actually in a level exploring it, like that pace to it feels like Dark Souls in a lot of ways. You have, when you die, like you have something that's basically Souls. It's called Amrita, but it's basically Souls that's used to level up and to buy things. When you die, you have one chance to get back to it and regain it. They're called shrines, but they're basically bonfires that when you rest at them, that's where you level up, is resting at those. When you rest, everything respawns, like all the normal enemies and stuff. So it's got all that's like Soulsian stuff going on. But then they layer in, so like now it's a mission structure instead of like a big open world. So like you basically from a world map screen you choose missions to go into. Missions all have like a level rating. There are like a bunch of skill trees for your weapons. So like there's a bunch of different weapon styles. There are 5 different main weapons. And each weapon you can have like a low stance, a medium stance, a high stance. There are combos. There are skill trees to get new combos and do things. So like that's kind of where you start seeing like maybe the Ninja Gaiden or Dead or Alive influence from Team Ninja because they like combos. And then on top of all that, there is gobs and gobs and gobs of random loot in that game. Like it's just every single thing you poke, just like loot pinatas just everywhere, and you do purples and blues and yellows and just flying everywhere, and you're picking it up and you can dismantle it for parts, and everything has abilities, and you can like transmute abilities into new abilities, and you can feed gear to other gear to level it up, and like just there's so many loot systems in that game, like it's insane.
That sounds really dense.
It is really dense.
Like, is it overwhelming whenever you're getting into playing it, or is it introduced organically enough to where you're never really feeling like you're crushed? Because I mean, to me, it just sounds kind of crushing whenever you're talking about it.
It's introduced organically enough. It's definitely a little overwhelming, but it didn't feel so overwhelming that like I just couldn't comprehend it. And it's also like it's all pretty standard. Like if you've played a Souls game and you've played a game that has random loot like a Diablo or something, like it's all pretty standard video game stuff at this point. It's just they've thrown a lot of it into the pot. So like I picked it up fairly quickly, and in the general moment to moment, you don't really notice a lot of it. There are definitely a few things around the edges that are not really explained. Like there's this prestige point system that basically happens as you perform different random feats. So like one of them might be kill 50 humanoid enemies with a sword. It's just like the list of is like there's like hundreds of those kind of things. It's just this huge list of things, and you get these prestige points that you put into stuff like, you know, bonus armor drop or something, like an extra 0.5%. So like there's some mechanics around the periphery like that aren't very well explained. The main mechanics are wheeled out well enough, but to me the issue is less like the rolling out of the mechanics as it is just like the game feels kind of unfocused. Like it feels like there's just a lot going on to the point where it feels kind of scattered. So like I'll be really enjoying, like I'll be exploring a level and I'll get really into that process of exploring and fighting stuff, and I think the combat's really good. And then it's like, oh, I've acquired a bunch of loot, I should probably do inventory management now, and then like that'll bog things down. So like it like with all the systems going on, you're like kind of constantly switching what you're doing mentally. And that feels kind of jarring to me sometimes. Like I would kind of prefer it if it was a little more focused.
Right.
So what I need to know is if there is a beach volleyball minigame.
Thus far, I have not seen any beach volleyball, but I'm not going to hold it against them. I will have to see once I make it, you know,
I mean,
further into the
especially when the protagonist to me looks like a young ninja Geralt. Like,
yes.
I'd be into that.
Yeah, I want to see Samurai Geralt playing beach volleyball.
Yeah, it is hilarious because the protagonist totally does look like Samurai Geralt.
Well, you've just now given me a new cosplay outfit to aspire to: Samurai Geralt playing beach volleyball.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my next outfit at DragonCon.
I mean,
Man.
you're already cool. Like that's just too much cool. I can't.
Cool.
Yeah, that might be too much.
See, now we've said this on a podcast, which means
Absolutely nothing, really.
if someone goes and makes this game now before we can,
Yeah.
they're gonna get all the credit.
That's
we
you
could
know what.
Probably sue them or something, right? That's how that works.
We'll have to cash that one in.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you said you just kind of made it sound a little like Dark Souls. How's the difficulty level? Is it the same? Is it a little easier than you expected? A little harder?
For me, it's been easier than I expected. Like I've had no problem. So you're picking missions from a world map, and the main missions I've not had any problems with. Like the bosses I've had to try like 2 or 3 times on average, which coming from the Souls games, that's pretty low. So I've not had any problems. There's one side mission that I've tried probably half a dozen times, and the whole side mission is just a boss, and this boss has been way harder than anything in the main missions, and I have not beat him yet, but it's also a side mission.
Right.
So we'll see how the game pans out, but so far, other than this one side mission, everything has been, compared to the Souls game, has felt pretty easy. It's the game itself is not easy. Like you definitely have to play in kind of like that slow, careful, attentive pace that you do for a Souls game. Like if you're just running through hacky slashy, you're going to get punished pretty quick. But compared to the Souls games, it seems a lot more forgiving. One thing, like the regular enemies all stagger when you hit them. So you can kind of, as long as you're managing your stamina, you can kind of just wail on regular enemies, and they're not going to have much of a window to attack.
Oh, okay. So in terms of, you can finish your thought if you have something.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to ask, like, in terms of difficulty and like the pacing and kind of how it scales up and like challenges you over time, because like for me, Dark Souls, that's kind of the draw of it, right? Like you're always kind of coming up to the next wall and then sort of having to figure out how to get through that, and the game's constantly throwing curveballs at you. Do you feel like this game does that to that extent, or?
No, so far the other thing that I think has made it a little easier is that there has not been a lot of variety in the enemies.
Right.
And the level design, like Dark Souls does a really great job of like every area is very different in terms of its design and the enemies in them.
Yeah.
So when you get to a new area, you can't rely on everything you learned in the previous area. You kind of have new challenges that like they're going to get you all over again in a way.
Right.
This game so far, again, I'm probably at best like 1/4 at best of the way through the game. So it certainly has time to change things up as I go. But so far I've been fighting a lot of the same enemies, and I know their animations and attacks very well at this point. So I'm kind of just charging through a lot of areas at the moment. There's certainly could be room for them to change that up and kind of make me learn stuff all over again.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that ramps up as the game goes, or like if there are challenges, is it things where you have to like figure something out as the player, or is it going to be the case where there's a challenge because you didn't get good drops or something like that?
That's my main worry with the game, is that like so far because if you guys know me, I do not like random loot really at all. So like the way I've basically been handling the loot is just like I've been using swords and spears as my weapons, and I've been using light armor because I'm playing like a faster, dodgier build. So I'm basically just taking like, all right, what light armor gives me the highest armor bonus, and what sword and spear have the highest attack value, and I'm just basically equipping those.
Yeah.
I'm not really looking at the special abilities and stuff. So like I wonder, later on if there could be a challenge that comes from like, oh, you really want to have like, pay attention to the abilities on your weapons and armor and make sure you get high enough level of that stuff instead of just equipping, the thing with the highest number of what you happen to find.
Yeah. But then again, if it is like good tight combat, which it sounds like it is, then maybe your stats don't like make or break it the way they would in like a turn-based RPG or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm banking on, is that there is a lot of skill in it.
Because you can beat Dark Souls with starting equipment at level 1.
You can beat Dark Souls while you're naked using a stick.
Yeah, just punching guys, right? Like, you can beat those games with nothing stat-wise, and it's just learning patterns and being fairly skillful in your play, which it sounds like you could probably do the same thing here.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think the gear part of it may make like the number scaling like you might just deal so little damage or take so much damage that you
Yeah.
would have to be really skillful. But you're definitely right that it is a very skill-based action game that, in theory, you should be able to beat no matter what gear you're using.
Yeah. I don't know. That game looks really neat. I'm looking forward to trying it, but I probably won't get to it until summer when I have actual time.
Yeah. It is really neat. Like, I am really, really enjoying it. I mean, my main two gripes is I think it could use some more variety, especially in the enemies, and I just don't like inventory management and dealing with all that loot. That part's at least a personal thing. But the core of the game of exploring levels and the tight combat are good enough that I am so far definitely very much enjoying it. The one last really cool thing it does that I want to mention is, you all remember from Gears of War the active reload?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, when you reload, there's like a little timing window. Basically, you hit an extra button and it'll reload faster and give you like more powerful bullets. This game basically has an active reload mechanic on your stamina bar. So like, anytime you're like attacking or rolling and you've lost some stamina, you'll like see these little particles like kind of form around your character, and if you press a button with the exact right timing, you will basically replenish a bunch of stamina really quick. And
Yeah.
So
it sort of feels like you're stringing together combos from what I remember. Like you do a little combo and then refill, and then you can like transition straight into a new combo.
Yeah. And there's an ability that I don't know why anyone would not get this. I don't even know why they put it in the skill tree instead of just give it to you from the jump. But there's an ability that lets you get that effect on dodge instead of pressing a separate button. So the way I've been playing is a very dodgy character. So like, I'll dodge in, do a few swings, then kind of dodge around them again as they try and counterattack. And if I dodge with the right timing, I'm basically hitting that active reload mechanic, which is replenishing some stamina. So I can kind of keep going for a long time. So I basically like dash in, attack, dash around behind them, attack, dash around again, attack, and just kind of keep that chain going as long as my timing is on point, which feels pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's why I've kind of gone for a light dodgy character, because I think those mechanics are really good. That like, it just feels good.
All right, so that's been taking up the majority of your time. You said that you've been playing one other game.
Yeah, so this is not necessarily one other game.
Okay. Is it cool stuff?
It is cool stuff, and it is video game related.
Then I will allow it.
The curiosity, I've been thinking about this for a long time, but my curiosity finally got the better of me, and I decided I wanted to see what the TurboGrafx 16 was all about.
All right.
So I did some research, tried to figure out what people thought were the, quote unquote, the best TurboGrafx 16 games. And I busted out my Wii and dabbled on its Virtual Console, which does have TurboGrafx 16 games.
Okay, I was expecting this conversation to go many places, but Wii Virtual Console TurboGrafx 16 was not on my list.
That's
me
why I'm
intrigued.
here, Paul, just to surprise you.
So
yeah, and I won't deep dive into any of these, but the list of games I've played at least a little bit of at this point are Blazing Lasers, Bomberman 93, Bonk's Adventure and Bonk's Revenge, Devil's Crush, Dungeon Explorer, Lords of Thunder, Military Madness, Newtopia, R-Type, and Splatterhouse.
I've actually heard of a few of those.
Yeah, a lot of, like, a third of those are, like, classic arcade-style shooters, and apparently the TurboGrafx 16 was kind of rotten with those. Those have kind of been my least favorite so far, personally, but that's also kind of not my thing. Devil's Crush is actually pretty cool. It's a pinball game that just seems to be done really well.
Okay.
Newtopia is kind of a Zelda-like thing. I'll probably try a little more of that one. It seems all right. Splatterhouse also seemed kind of interesting. It was a side-scrolling, like, beat 'em up. But my favorite one, Military Madness is kind of like an Advance Wars style thing. But it's also like really old and clunky compared to Advance Wars. So, it's like trying to play a lot of that now just feels like a huge, effort. But there's one I didn't mention yet, which is by far the coolest game I played, and that's Castlevania Rondo of Blood. It was a TurboGrafx 16 game, and I've played probably a good 2/3 of that game at this point, and will probably continue to play it because that's a darn good Castlevania game.
Okay.
And also probably has my favorite Castlevania soundtrack in the entire series among the games I've played. It's really good.
Yeah, you sent me that music the other day, and I was like, what, why? Where is this coming from? I should have asked, because I would have known. But
Yep,
yeah,
no,
that's funny.
now
that was
you know
some
the
good music
surprise.
you sent me though.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like certain songs like Vampire Killer and Bloody Tears and such, like they're in pretty much all the Castlevania games, but the versions in this game are really, really good. But yeah, I won't take up a lot of time talking about any of those. If anyone has questions, I will expand on them. But I just wanted to throw out there that I have been. It's been an interesting experiment. Like a lot of these games are old and kind of clunky, but they're other than Rondo of Blood, none of them really seem that good, especially not in 2017. But it is satisfying my curiosity of like what was this system.
Yeah. How much is a TurboGrafx game on the Wii Virtual Console?
I don't know if I want to admit to this information.
Oh, now you have to.
Fair enough. We can look it up
Virtual
ourselves.
Console madness.
They differ in price a little bit, but most of them are $6.
Ah!
Yeah.
What?
Virtual Console.
Yep.
It's terrible.
Wow.
That's
Now
why I've been debating this for a long time, but like I said, eventually my curiosity got the better of me. I just had to know.
I'm gonna send you a link that's on Wikipedia, which lists all of the emulators for the TurboGrafx 16. It's on Wikipedia, for God's sake.
That's a bigger debate. I mean, I support the high road,
Yeah.
but
I do things legally, Paul, at least on a
Nintendo
broadcasted
does not
podcast.
make it easy or affordable.
Yeah, it's hard when the legal route is highway robbery.
That is hilarious. And we're gonna squash the emulation talk because I think that we could go on for that for like an hour, at least. But do you have any other high notes that you wanted to hit on, Flex, or is that pretty much all that you wanted to bring to the table today?
Yep, that's pretty much it. Just been playing chunk of Nioh and going down my weird TurboGrafx rabbit hole. And at least Rondo of Blood is very good. So
Yeah, at least you got something good out of it.
yeah,
Okay.
that game's pretty awesome.
And now you can say that you've done that thing for whatever that's worth.
I can check off that box.
That tiny box is now checked. Ryan, what's been keeping you busy lately?
Well, I guess I don't have a ton of new things to talk about. I've been continuing some of my backlog play, and I was playing Final Fantasy II, which we talked about last week. I started up a little bit of Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I'll probably have more time to sink my teeth into that by our next podcast, so I won't say too much about that. The biggest thing I've played individually, I guess, or the thing I played to completion was I picked up Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons off my backlog and beat that in probably a 3 to 5 hour sitting, multiple sittings, not all at once. And yeah, that was a pretty cool game. It feels kind of tech demo-y and to me, like in that it showcases a lot of cool looking environments using the Unreal Engine. They also have a bit of a gameplay gimmick where you're basically controlling these two brothers, an older brother and a younger brother. And if you play on a regular controller, one analog stick controls one brother and the other analog stick controls the other brother. So it's sort of like a co-op game that you control by yourself, using two halves of a like a regular controller, like an Xbox or a PS4 controller. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a pleasant surprise. Not too long. Had some cool environments and some unexpected story twists. The brothers, man, they have a hard life. Their adventure was full of disaster.
Yeah, that's a harrowing adventure.
Oh no.
Yeah. It starts out kind of a little more innocuous, and then it's just like everywhere they go, bad things are happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was good.
Some of the environments you go through are pretty ridiculous and gruesome too.
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, I really like what they did. I almost wondered if they were like just doing that game just to show off like cool things you could do in the Unreal Engine, because like you go through some very varied environments, like very different environments from like one area to the next. You might be like in one environment, you might be like on a castle on like a mountain peak, like, you know, in kind of a precarious like mountainside setting, and then, you know, the next thing you know, you might be walking through like jumping across ice on like a frozen lake or ocean. And yeah, like you know, you start off in like a village, and you know, you go past some waterfalls. Like they just do a lot of different things with the environments. But yeah, other than that, the only thing I guess I have to add for this past week, or I visited Raleigh, North Carolina in the flesh, so I had the chance to also enjoy some TurboGrafx action. Played a little bit of Dungeon Explorer and Bomberman 93. And I played Nioh for 5 minutes. It felt like a Dark Souls game, and I walked into some water and died.
It was funny. I showed Ryan. I was like showing Ryan the game, and then I had to use the restroom, so I handed him the controller. Went to use the restroom, and when I came back, I all of a sudden had no souls.
It's weird how that happens.
Yeah, it's amazing. They just, I don't know, they just disappear sometimes.
I will defend my honor by saying that I have beaten Dark Souls 1, so I'm not an incompetent player. It's just if you hand
and to be fair, he was trying that for the first time, like, you know, a dozen plus hours into the game, so not somewhere where a new player would want to be.
Fair enough.
I do have an important question for Ryan, though. Now that you've played Brothers, are there 10 games from 2013 that are better than Brothers?
Yes, probably.
Think back to 2013. What games?
If I can think of 10 other games from 2013, there might be quite a few better than Brothers, but it was a good game.
For the record, that's a long-standing Giant Bomb joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mass Effect 3 was probably 2013. That's about all that I can
Yeah, I think that was 2012.
Remember.
Like The Last of Us, A Link Between Worlds,
Yeah.
Bioshock Infinite, Pokemon X and Y. There are some pretty good
All
2013 games. The Swapper, Papers,
Sure.
Please.
The Swapper.
Yeah, pretty much all of those you named I would consider better than Brothers, or at least equally as good, if not better.
We'll make sure to send this podcast to Brad Shoemaker.
Oh, that's funny. CC Danny O'Dwyer. All right. Steph, I know you have some things that you'd like to talk about.
Yeah. So it took a while, but I finally finished Final Fantasy 15. I am very proud of that.
What?
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So I found myself really, really into the game. I have a bad habit when I play, especially JRPGs, of overpowering myself. So side quests and just grinding, and I get to the point where I'm like, I just really want to get through the game though. And so this game for me was perfect. I know that doesn't work for everybody, but for me it was perfect, since, you know, the first like 40 hours of the game I played through some storyline, but then I just ran around and did all the side quests, ran around through a whole bunch of dungeons, overpowered myself. And then when I kind of got my fill of all that and I was ready for story, I was around chapter 8. And around that point of the game, I don't think it's as streamlined and forced as some people make it out to be. But you kind of go on just a story ride. And Chapter 8 started for me on like a Saturday morning, and I did not put the game down until I finished. I kind of felt like a giddy 16-year-old again when I would get my hands on like... I was really late coming into video games for the PlayStation. So it'd be like when I found like Final Fantasy VIII or something and I just couldn't put the game down. So for me, I relived some of the magic that I felt playing my first RPGs. So that's kind of my feel on that game. Really loved it. I do have one, well, I have more than one complaint. But I think my
Don't
biggest
we all?
my biggest complaint of the game is a factor that I also ran into playing Final Fantasy XIII, which I really liked, but I liked it based off of all the stuff they didn't go over in the damn game. I forgot what they called them in that game, basically the codex entries. All the side story
Final
stuff.
Fantasy 13 had a weird thing where, it like shoved a lot of its lore and story into codex stuff and just didn't really explain it.
Yeah, the Fal'Cie and then the Fal'Cie, the l'Cie, I mean, like, that entire, I mean, it's not necessarily what I would consider bad fiction. It's just you need to sit down and read a book before you actually can really understand what's going on with a lot of the different pieces of that game.
But that was the part of that game that I really got enthralled about when I started reading about like this overlying thing that was happening to the world. I was way more interested in that. And it made watching all the story happening to our protagonist more interesting for me, but it wasn't until I got into like the meat of why is this world like this? There was a way more interesting story there. And I feel like that also happened with 15. I'm probably going to butcher the name. Is it Piteous? Pietus?
Which
The
character?
Ruins. It's the Ruins, the Pit of Eos.
I don't remember.
Okay, that's the dungeon that you do after the story. And I won't spoil anything, but it basically kind of gives like this... It's like a tragedy. It's a story. It's a dungeon where you go through and there's all these symbolisms and storytelling that they use through visual imagery that explains basically how the Scourge even came to be. And it is this... And there's theories of it online. And I actually couldn't sleep that night because after I beat the game, oh my gosh, I just like stayed up for like hours reading all these fan theories and everything people have uncovered in that dungeon. And it's all about the guardians, or they call them something different in every damn game. All the summons, like
the Aeons,
the GFs, the guardian forces,
the Espers.
Yeah, the Espers.
Didn't they call them like the Hydraean or the Six or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely used the Six.
It talked more about like how their interactions with each other affected the world, and I'm like, this is so freaking cool. Like, this is a better story than the story.
Yeah.
Oh, did they do that? Did they actually give the gods backstories?
Not officially. Not officially. It kind of, to me, it relates more to like how you would see the trailers for what was then Final Fantasy 13, some such or another. And it looked like a much more epic story, and it talked more about like the goddess Eos. And it was a different story, and it was elements of that in this one dungeon, and it was so compelling. Oh my gosh. I went down a rabbit hole with that stuff.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to like the larger problem that game has overall, which is like it just feels very scattered and unfocused, and like a lot of the things about it just are not conveyed as well as they could be. Which is the story stuff you're talking about, and I think even mechanically, like that game's just kind of all over the place, and like it feels like they could have conveyed a lot of stuff to the player better.
Yeah, I find it really frustrating because I feel like there are so many elements of this game that are polished so well, but they just don't fit together. And it's frustrating because, oh my god, I mean, I still really enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorite games now. But, man, just so many things I could have done better.
Yeah. So did you enjoy the combat overall? I feel like that's kind of like the main, like, people who like the game a lot seem to like the combat, and people who don't, like myself, that seems to kind of be the main sticking point.
Yeah, I love the combat. I didn't love the camera system, but I did like the combat.
I don't know how one could love that one.
There were many times where I'm like, oh, look, a bush, and I'm dying. Okay. There was a lot of that.
If I could see you, you would be so dead right now. But this camera's just stuck. There was a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely had my camper problems.
Yeah, but I really did think the combat system was interesting, especially with them coming out soon-ish, quotation marks, with the, I don't want to say remake, but like the remaster of Final Fantasy 12. I think it
Right.
just goes to show like how much they really are trying to experiment with battle systems. There's been so many different types. And the thing
Yeah, I
that
mean,
Yeah,
frustrates me in
that's
the
what
Final
they've
Fantasy
always done that.
fandom is Final Fantasy is a really good franchise. It's a really good series. You can't do it the same every single time. And every time they change something, they get lashback for it. And then they change it again. They get lashback for it. And then
yeah.
people are like, why don't you go back to the old way? But then there's this big debate of you can't just whip out the same formula. And I think that you have to at least give them props that they are trying different
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, that's been one of my favorite things about the series in the long run is that they are willing to shake up a lot of things, especially in combat. And like I like some of them I like better than others. Like, 15 in particular is like one of my least favorite combat systems in the series, but like I absolutely give them like I would rather them try something else even if it kind of doesn't work as well than just do the same combat over and over. So I definitely give them props for
Oh, yeah.
trying.
Well, it's like the Tales of franchise. I really love the Tales. Well, that's a topic for another day. I do like many of the Tales of games, but it is. I know there's tweaks and there's differences, but it is the same combat system
Yeah.
every time, which
Yeah.
gets a little boring. So,
Yeah, and Dragon Quest is similar. They kind of stick to their formula as well. So I definitely give Final Fantasy props for being willing to shake it up.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And there is
Yeah.
another rabbit hole I have to go down.
Oh.
Oh, I have another rabbit hole for you guys. I'm going to say a lot of words.
Does it
Um,
involve discovering new recipes?
it doesn't. It doesn't. Oh my gosh. I can't talk about the spoilers, but all the spoilers and the feelings and no, I'm going to switch games.
Well, I mean, I guess we could just warn the listeners because we pretty much. Whoa, wait, Paul, you haven't finished 15 yet, have
He
you?
watched me play it.
Yeah, I just sat down and watched her play from chapter 8 all the way through, so I know how the story ends.
I think everyone on the podcast has played 15 through. So if you really want to do spoilers, like just we'll put the spoiler warning, put the spoiler red flag out there.
Oh man. I don't know. I think we can hang on to that spoiler for when we
We
do
can
the
maybe
Final
save that for a
Fantasy.
different podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Maybe we'll have a Final Fantasy featured podcast at one day and
We might be thinking about it.
yeah, maybe
We,
we'll just put a big spoiler warning on that one.
oh yeah, you can't do any podcast like that without just talking about all of the story points.
that when we get into that one, it's just going to be spoiler city.
Yeah.
Sephiroth dies.
Oh no,
I was more torn up about that death. Oh well.
He-
Um,
he got better.
no, the other game I want to talk about. It involves my favorite Vocaloid, Hatsune Miku.
All right, this is something I really need to hear about.
Oh, you do. I need to tell you all about it. So it's a rhythm.
First of all, can I still get my Domino's Pizza Hatsune Miku app?
Oh Lord, I have no idea.
This is very important information.
I can't help you with that. But what I can tell you
Go on.
is that anyone who likes a rhythm game should definitely get Project Diva Future Tone. You get it off of. Go ahead.
Oh, you may be getting to this, but at some point, like, I want to know what Hatsune Miku games you've played or Project Diva games you've played, and like how this fits in.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of words about that.
Okay.
So first off, this is a game that you get off. I'm assuming that you only get it on the PlayStation Store. I hadn't even heard of it, and I'm a big fan of the Project Diva games. So maybe I don't know, had my eyes closed for a long time or something. But I just went to the store and I found Project Diva X, which came out last year in August at a GameStop, and I was like, oh, I haven't played this yet. Let me grab it, and threw $40 at the guy, said no to everything he asked, and left. Which was a lot of no's. Yeah, it's a lot of no's.
Back to our GameStop discussion from last week.
Many no's. But I was playing it, and the thing with the Project Diva games is they feel very polished, and I love with the Vocaloids in general, like all of the community effort and making like these characters' personalities and songs and videos and costumes, and it's such a big collaboration with a lot of love in it, and I loved it. But it had one complaint, is that the Project Diva games are averaging between 30 and 40 songs, which sounds like a lot, but if you really want to get it like costumes and upgrades and accessories, like you kind of get tired of the same songs after a while. And my big complaint about Project Diva X is that there's basically 5 characters that show up. You have Mako, Kaito, Miku, Rin, Len, and Luca. Rin and Len are kind of the same person-ish, depending on which lore you go with in the community. But it made me mad because all the songs were just Miku. There were like barely any other songs from any of the other Vocaloids. I was like, man, that really sucks. So I started looking online, and that's when I heard about Future Tone, and I was like, what is this? Look, it came out January 10th of this year. It is basically all of the songs from the games, plus more. There's 2 packs that came out for it. They are about $30 a piece. Or you can bundle it. $53, you get over 220 songs.
That's a lot of songs.
That is many songs.
That's reaching like Theat Rhythm Curtain Call territory.
That's many a song. And there's still DLC coming out for it. The thing is, like, because I just got this, Miku game from last year, and I'm like, there's no DLC for it. What the heck? That's because they're putting all their DLC into Future Tones.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it sounds like this, like, I've never played a Hatsune Miku game before. It sounds like this is the one to get just because it has the songs.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a not emulation version of, if anyone's familiar with like the DDR franchise, how you'd have Stepmania.
I may be familiar with this.
Okay, yeah. So it actually has like kind of the same interface too. It kind of looks like Stepmania on the screen, which is interesting. But yeah, just so many songs. That's all legit.
Okay.
And
yeah, I mean that's good to know because like I've thought about trying one of these games for a long time to satisfy again some weird curiosity, and like it seems like 1 or 2 games like Project Diva games come out every year. They're like on PS4 and on Vita and on 3DS, and like they're just all over the place, and like I never know where to start.
Right. Well, it frustrates me that I just spent $40 on this other game when for $10 more I got like 190 more songs.
Right.
But there are like some very important differences between the games, and I feel like you're not going to miss these too much. So Future Tone isn't as polished in the way of the other games. They have like a lot of character interaction. They've got like weird like love meters. You can give the singers gifts. You can pet them on their heads. You can tickle them. Like, I don't know. It gets into some kind of creepy territory.
So I can't tickle them in Future Tone?
You can't tickle them, but you can dress them up in very compromising outfits.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no gift giving. There's no rooms to decorate. Like all the stuff that's just been kind of piled on as like extras to these rhythm games is gone. But I'm okay with that because you got so much rhythm game.
Yeah. I'm making fun of the games, but yeah, I mean, the thing I want is just the songs. Like that's. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing your proclivity for rhythm games, I mean, just the actual core gameplay of it, I think is something that you probably like. But all the culture around it, I don't think that you need that flex. Just go in there and play the song and then back out.
The culture around it would not be up my alley, but it'd be one of those things that I would like laugh at and get amusement at, but like also think it's probably bad. My main question with the core gameplay, like, did you play any of Persona 4 Dancing All Night stuff?
Yeah, I played it all.
Does it play similarly to that? I feel like there's some shared blood. I heard there was some shared blood there, but I don't actually know.
It's kind of hard because when I think of like Persona 4 Dancing All Night, I think of it like oh my gosh, what are the not brackets? What are the circular thingies? Holy shit.
Circles? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's basically the face buttons?
No, like you're talking about like the 2 half circles on either side. I feel like such an idiot. And I don't know, but you know, like you have like the left side and the right side in Persona Dancing All Night.
Right.
Yeah, and then like they go to the left or the right, and you push the corresponding
Okay, yeah.
button.
Mm-hmm.
But more like in this game, everything just flies at the screen however it wants to. So it's a
Okay.
little more reminiscent of Elite Beat Agents, in my
Okay.
opinion.
Just
Um,
but it's button controls instead of touch controls, right?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
there is like a controller that they have in the arcade that you can buy. I don't think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But the only major complaint I have about this game is that whenever I played any of the Miku games, whenever friends come over, it just kind of becomes this weird, I don't know, like focus of everyone's attention. For my 30th birthday, everyone just sat around while I drank and watched me play Miku.
I
Like,
mean, this sounds like a good. I don't see what the problem is here. It sounds
oh,
like a good
it's
time
not
to
a bad
me.
time. But at the bottom of that particular game, I think it was second note or something. All the lyrics were translated into English at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, people were watching me play. I'm focusing on the rhythm. People are focusing on the story because each song is basically its own story, and it's really fascinating.
Okay.
Everything's in Japanese. Like not the controls, but like all the lyrics on the bottom of the screen are in Japanese. So if you're watching somebody play, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, but
That's
I
my
mean,
only gruff.
This sounds pretty special.
yeah, and if you are looking to get into one of the Hatsune Miku games, this one's definitely the one to jump into with all the 200 songs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
That's the impression I'm getting.
yeah,
It's a little overwhelming, but they do help where you can favorite songs so you can make your own playlist. So they do help you get through the music. But as far as like difficulty, I feel like Future Tone is harder than all of the other games I've played, which is a good thing because they start you out. They've got the 4 modes. They have easy, norm, or easy, standard, hard, extreme, um, and I feel like if you're comfortable with rhythm games to begin with, like after you get used to the button combinations,
Mm-hmm.
you can start at normal very easily,
Yeah.
but you still have 2 levels of a challenge, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds fun. I like the rhythm games.
it's the rhythm games.
I've been known to give myself to the rhythm from time to time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just gonna call it out here. Ryan in chat just said we should do a best of rhythm games. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I
I'd
would be
fight.
all about some of that.
I could. Oh, speaking of which, sorry, one last thing. There is a Persona 4 Dancing All Night outfit for Miku.
that's hilarious.
There you
Okay.
go.
Like from what character in Persona 4?
I don't know. I think it's just
It's
based off of the general aesthetic from that
the
game.
style. Okay.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny they acknowledge that game in this game.
Yeah, I feel like there might have been like in the development team some kind of crossover there, but I could be wrong.
It feels
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ended up picking up Persona 4 because I like the wrapper around, you know, I like the Persona 4 style and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that music, but at the same time, 200 plus songs is nothing to scoff at.
Well, that
No.
is another thing, like really quick to touch on, is that the songs in this game, they're not limited to one particular style. Like there are some songs that have that kind of weird, funky jazz hip hop feeling for Persona,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some that are completely out of right field. So there's literally all kinds of
Right.
crazy songs.
Some country, some heavy metal, some.
Not really country, but there are some rock songs.
Yeah, there's some rock songs in there.
I
Okay,
want to
cool.
hear Hatsune Miku heavy metal, like some good like death metal.
Let me introduce you to this site named YouTube, and
The
There's-
Doom 2 soundtrack starring Hatsune Miku.
Oh God.
There you go.
We were that is a place that we're also not gonna go.
I just had a brilliant idea.
Oh God.
is it beach volleyball?
No. Yes. Doom Marine playing beach volleyball while Hatsune Miku sings heavy metal.
I'm into this.
Do it.
All right, now that we're completely off the rails, Nate,
Yes, sir.
what's been going on in your corner of the world other than teaching youngins?
Yeah, you know, how do you guys feel about mobile games?
I hate all of them except for one.
Okay.
I have a mobile.
Okay.
This is interesting.
I have played a little bit of that Fire Emblem mobile game.
Oh, nice. Heroes?
You
Is
mean
it-
Fire Emblem Heroes?
Yes, Fire Emblem Heroes.
Um,
Not a lot of it, but I have tried it a little bit.
Did you get a Hector? And if not, why did you not re-roll until you got a Hector?
I did not get a Hector, and in fact, I wish I had gotten a Hector because
Well, yeah,
I assume he would be a green character, right? Because he uses axes.
Yeah, he
Was
would
Hector the
probably
guy
be
in, like, the
just
big
amazing
armor?
across the board because he's Hector.
Well, that's true too.
Hector was the guy in like all the armor, wasn't he?
I don't know
Yeah,
how much
he
armor
was pretty
he was
well
wearing.
armored. He wasn't like a knight or general or
Yeah, he wasn't
anything.
one of the big fatties, but
Yeah, he wasn't one of the fatties, but he did have some good armor, and he had an axe, a giant axe.
Yeah.
And he
Okay,
murdered
okay.
things with that axe.
Yeah, he had the red cape and everything. I remember. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah. So I've been messing around some with that. It's a mobile version of Fire Emblem, so it's kind of has all the ups and downs you would expect from that.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, the thing I've heard with that game is that it's a very light version of Fire Emblem, like very small maps and small.
Yeah, all the
areas.
maps are the same size that are just made to fit on your phone screen, so they're all the same small size. Like you don't
Yeah.
scroll ever. It's just
Yeah.
it's right there on the screen.
Does tactically does it feel as
No.
interesting as a Fire Emblem game?
Definitely not. It like the entirety of the game is like building your hero roster, but
Right.
like in terms of
many-
actual tactics, there's basically none that I've had. Like there's been like one or two maps where I'm like thinking about where to move my guys, but most of the time
Right.
it's just like I'm gonna jam all my guys in there and attack them other guys, and then they all die.
And they die. Yeah. How many dudes do you take on the field in a map, and does that ever change, or is it always the same number?
I believe it's always the same. It's 4.
Okay. Okay. And does it seem to have the same wide spread of classes that a normal Fire Emblem game would, or does it seem limited?
I think it mostly does. Like, I've got, it has the normal blue, red, green triangle,
Yeah.
and then within those you can have spellcasters or people on mounts or
Yeah.
heavily armored guys.
Right. Archer's still effective against flyers.
And then archer is still effective against flyers. Then they're the gray classes. So archers and ninjas and healers are like the colorless classes.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, I'm spitfiring like random questions here. Do you equip different weapons and stuff?
Kind of, although that system seems pointless from what I've seen.
Okay.
The actual weapon equipment part of it, because every character, so every character can unlock skills. So basically, by leveling them up, you get skill points, and then you can spend those skill points for that character to unlock
Right.
skills. And so their
Right.
different weapons are different skills. But all the characters that I've looked at so far, like say I have a red sword character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at their skill list, and there are 3 different swords on there. But it's just like, the crappy one, the middle tier one, and the best one. And so far, all of my characters have just come with the best one automatically.
Oh, okay. Weird.
So I don't really understand why that is there.
Yeah, that seems weird.
There are other skills that are useful, but as far as like changing your actual weapons, that seems pointless to me so far.
Yeah. So who's your crew?
My main guys that I use, I've got it pulled up right now, so I can tell you exactly.
Right. Can get real time check in here.
Yep. My main guys that I use that are highest level are Corrin,
Okay.
Odin,
Okay.
Olivia.
What?
Okay.
I don't know what game she's from.
The name rings a bell, but I don't remember either.
She's a dancer.
Did you say Odin?
Odin, yeah.
Yeah.
Does he
Olivia
like?
was my
Does
favorite.
he like scream about his hand or his like cursed blood or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of have their own dialogue that kind of matches their personality from the game. They don't have a lot of lines of dialogue, but I mean, his personality is definitely the same.
My aching blood.
Yep. And then
Yeah, that's
Azama is my healer.
Who? Sorry?
Azama.
Okay.
Sama. Was he like the feminine? No, that's Libra I'm thinking of.
I don't know who all of these people are, actually.
Olivia was apparently from Awakening.
Yeah, she was I think Crom could actually marry her.
He
think
could.
so.
I did it.
Azama is apparently from the birthright root of Fates.
Oh, okay. That's why I don't.
So I never saw him.
I have Florina on Pegasus.
All right. I remember her.
Saizo, the ninja.
Mm-hmm.
He was a beast.
And Barst is an axe guy.
Say Barst?
Barst. I don't know where he's from.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. Florina I remember from, I think, the GBA one.
Those are pretty much all the guys that I use.
Do you have a lot more guys?
Yeah, I mean, I probably have like 20-something guys total.
Do they have all of the characters, like, from the games?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there would be probably hundreds of characters at this point.
I do have a stall that I haven't used.
Okay, good. Because Stahl, Olivia, and Naui were definitely my group. Yeah, she's a little dragon girl.
Yeah, I kind of remember that character, but I don't have her. But yeah, I don't know. It's nothing amazing. It's very basic tactics and mostly just like what you would expect from a mobile game. Like log in every day and do some stuff, and then
Yeah, so it does have all the mobile game hooks.
like spin the slot machine wheel to see what heroes pop out.
Fun.
That's basically what it is.
Does it have like timers that restrict your play?
It does, but they seem very lenient. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I've never played for more than 20 minutes at a time, and
Right.
it's like I can't even see the amount that I've spent out of my stamina meter. That's the timer.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm doing that a little bit when I have a spare 15 minutes, and then
Sure.
I guess the other quick one I can run through is last night and this morning played through Abzu,
Okay.
which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's a neat game. I don't know that I have much to say about it. It didn't grab me for like the first 45 minutes or so, but
Yeah.
then I jumped back in, and it was the second half I feel like was a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. I played that game in one sitting, and I remember it feeling kind of slow to start.
Yeah.
But you can ride turtles in it.
You can ride turtles, and that's cool.
That counts for something.
And you can grab onto like other like fat fish and like jerk them around and make them swim in weird ways. That looks kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that
So-
game didn't grab me as much as Journey, but it was definitely... I definitely enjoyed the experience. And it had some cool, like... I don't know about you, but like for me, the whales moment I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that whale sequence was really cool, and then like the end sequence was cool.
Yeah.
It just sounds like aquarium abuse from the way you guys describe it.
No, all the animals are your friends.
I don't know if the animals are your friends the way that Flex's Pokemon were his friends. Not really good friends.
I mean, I don't know.
You mean
about
the
him,
best
but-
friends.
Mm-hmm.
My Poplio loves me so much.
You don't even clean them.
Oh boy.
So I have
He likes mud on his face.
Oh God.
He told me so.
We can't do this again.
Why are we doing this again?
So yeah, I have a question before we move off.
Sure.
Before you move off, Nate. This is actually circling back to the Fire Emblem Heroes. You know,
Yep.
you talked about how it's kind of like a standard mobile game with like a Fire Emblem flavor, and so I'm just kind of curious, like overall, if it's something that you actually enjoy. I mean, obviously you've been playing it kind of to check it out. Do you think it's something you enjoy enough to continue playing, or you'll just see how it goes till you get tired of it, or is it just curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably keep playing it for a little bit longer. Like, I started unlocking some better skills for some of my guys, so I can like actually like use a little bit more tactics if I need to. Things like, if anybody who starts their turn next to this guy gets their attack buffed for that turn, or I can use my axe guy Barst to like pull somebody back out of a danger spot, things like that. But if I play it for a lot longer and it doesn't get any more challenging, then I don't know that there's any point to any of that stuff. Because so far it literally has just been like, put my 4 guys on the field, walk forward, hit the bad dudes, and then go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and It's like, because I know you've never really been a huge Fire Emblem fan, so it is kind of curious to hear you checking this one out. I mean, I know it's free, so it's easy to just try it.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know
literally
if
tried
that's
it
the
just because
reason.
it's on my phone and I can do it when I have 10 minutes. That's
Right.
basically my reasoning.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny that you bring up mobile games because I've actually been playing one of those recently myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but before I bogart in the conversation, did you have anything else that you wanted to bring up, Nick?
Oh, the other game I played, which was actually most of my time, was Final Fantasy V, which I have now finished. I have now finished every major Final Fantasy single player game.
Congrats.
Congrats.
People finishing Final Fantasy games left and right.
Yep.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
That's right.
Yeah, I actually liked Final Fantasy V
You-
a lot.
Yeah.
I was surprised because that was one of the ones that, like, the internet doesn't really talk about it for whatever reason. So whenever I went through and I finished that one, I was like, this is really freaking good. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's underrated because you can obviously go to like Metacritic or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, it's highly rated, but it's just no one seems to just ever talk about it.
Yeah.
In general sort of Final Fantasy spaces, which is odd to me.
I'm sure a big part of that is because it was one of the ones that originally did not come to the U.S. But yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
whenever I do see people talk about it, which I agree is not often, like most people seem to really like it, and I mean I think that's a fantastic Final Fantasy game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I definitely like it a lot. I like the job system, so that works in its favor for me.
You can throw money at people,
You can throw money.
and it hurts them a lot.
Yeah, especially that final boss.
Yeah, you just throw all your money. You don't need it no more.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's what I did for that final boss. I just
I did
cheated
too.
the hell out of him. I just threw all my gil at him and he exploded.
I haven't
Yeah.
played this game, but I've heard of this tactic, so it
Yeah.
apparently is like a legit Final
It's
Fantasy V strategy.
It's really just like the final form of the final boss. It's just like probably the easiest way to kill him because you don't need your
That's-
money at that point, and it's just really good for him because he has multiple spots to attack, and throwing money hits everything.
Right.
It just does a lot of damage.
Yeah, the final boss is X Death, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. X death.
Which man, that game, like, it's not a super long game. Like it's long. It's an RPG, but it's not like
Yeah.
80 hours or anything.
Yeah,
But
I'm
like,
doing that right now.
it goes like so fast, and the story moves so far. Like during the 30-hour campaign,
Yeah.
like there's like 3 different worlds essentially that you go through, and like
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that it's just like moving at a breakneck speed, it feels like a lot of the time, which I really appreciate. It's like somehow that X Death is the opponent for like the whole game, and you keep meeting him, and like
Yeah.
he still keeps sticking around and doing horrible stuff. And so like when you finally finish it, it is actually like a really cathartic moment. Like, man, get this guy out of here. He's
Yeah, I think they did a really good job in that era of Final Fantasy. Yeah, just like the story constantly moving and you're doing stuff.
Yeah, 'cause
Right.
I remember when I was playing it, and I was like 10 hours in, and you get to maybe max 15, between 10 and 15 hours in, and you get to the end of that first world, and it's like, if this were any other game, like the series of events that have transpired would take the whole game,
Right.
and they just blow through it, and then it's like, oh no, here we go, here's the next round of the story.
Yeah.
But it's all in line and all like fits together in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you become good friends with Gilgamesh?
Yeah.
He's such a goober in that game.
He is such a goober, but it's great.
It's the best.
Yeah. No, that game's really cool. I don't love everything about it. Like there are some dungeons late game that I didn't enjoy, but overall it is really good.
Yeah.
Cool.
That probably was still in the area where like late game dungeons were just kind of slogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do kind of remember that. I don't remember a lot from that game because it's been a while since I beat it, but it was either the last dungeon or the second to last dungeon in that game. I was just like, holy crap, when is this going to end? I'm so
Yeah.
tired of all of this purple stuff. I'll just remember purple stuff, and I don't even know why.
Yeah. They just make very long dungeons full of pretty tough enemies that like to throw every status effect in the game at you, and it's just like, I don't want you to deal with this. Just get me to the boss.
Yeah. So.
But I don't. It sounds like you agree that the strength is a job system, which may have not ever been done better.
Yeah, but the only problem I have with the job system is that it didn't feel like it fleshed out soon enough. Like, I kind of wish the mime class was required and earlier, or they somehow incorporated that into the normal progression, because I feel like that's what makes the job systems shine so much, is when you can like really mix and match abilities using the mime class. But you don't even have to get that, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's a really good Final Fantasy. I'll be curious to see where that ends up falling on our list whenever we get around to doing that. So, well,
anyway, that's it for me.
So I've been. First thing I'll do is I'll give you guys the Trails of Cold Steel update. I'm still progressing through it. It is actually longer than I thought it was, and I thought it was long. It wasn't like I'm like, I don't know, this is like a 60-hour RPG. Yeah, I just ticked over hour number 55, and I've actually been playing it a good amount. I've been doing about an hour or an hour and a half every night for like the last 2 weeks, it feels like. Boy. So the only update that I can really give you is the main character is indeed a special snowflake. His hair just turned white, his eyes turned red, he exploded with energy, and then he got beat down by a big bad boss.
He is the anime.
Yeah, so I have officially reached the anime point of that game.
Okay.
And I've also reached
never go full anime, Paul.
Well, he didn't. He tried, and then he just kind of it didn't work out for him. Turns out the greatest blade master in the land is actually the greatest blade master in the land. So yeah, and the game's also picked up to the point to where you're not just students in the school anymore. I mean, yes, you still are, but there's now a clear antagonist. Instead of there just being subtle hints, it's now very overt. It's a guy that looks like Shredder, and he has a super deep voice, and he calls himself Comrade C. And that's really all that you need to know.
That sounds like some anime.
Yeah, it is very anime. So I've still been progressing through that, but not really too much more to talk about there. The other thing I've actually been watching with Steph was we started watching an anime called Konosuba, however you want to say it. It is hilarious. It's basically a regular dude in Japan dies and is reincarnated into a fantasy world where he's an adventurer, and it's all very sort of like fantasy tropes and D&D. And the twist is that he gets to pick like one really cool trait or one like overpowered piece of equipment or something to take with him and like when he's reincarnated into this world. So he picks the goddess instead. And she's like, wait, you can't do that. And then it turns out he can. It is in the rules, except that she's absolutely worthless at like everything, except for big set piece moments when it's like, oh yeah, you actually are a goddess and you just did that thing. Okay. But it's a little bit slice of life, but from like a fantasy perspective, they do a great job of like just making those tropes just hilarious.
Right.
So very early on, you know, the party is formed up. One of the party members is a sorceress who only uses explosion magic because she really likes explosions, but she can only cast one explosion spell. And then she passes out, basically. She just falls over. So there's a whole lot of incredible art and then just like big explosions and all this cool sounding stuff. And then in the background, you just see like her little like outline just go, boom. She just falls on her face every time. And it's on Crunchyroll, so you can watch it for free. There's a season and a half, or did they finish the second season? Do you know, Steph?
No, they're currently coming out with episodes for the second season. The first season's only like 8 episodes, though.
Yeah, so it's not a long amount of time. The episodes are 23 minutes apiece, I think. And then when you add in same Crunchyroll commercial that you'll see 10 times through one episode. It's about half an hour per episode, and it's short, it's hilarious. It's if you're someone that's ever enjoyed fantasy RPGs or D&D or any of that, then this series is something that you should probably try and check out, and at least give it two episodes, which is like a quarter of the first season. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching that.
I'd
So-
throw in a
Nice.
warning though first. Like, I would not jump into this show if you've not familiarized yourself with anime before. There's a lot of parts about it that are things that you don't think about when you're already a fan of anime. There's a lot of ecchi. There's a lot of like upskirt. There's a lot of perversion, like on the borderline teen version. And that can be really uncomfortable if you're like, hey, person who's never seen anime before, why don't you sit down? And now we're looking up a girl's skirt together. This is a bonding moment. So you may want to be careful if you're not already familiarized with the tropes of anime. This may not be a good one to step into anime with. But if you're already seasoned, it's pretty funny.
So a couple questions. So I'm guessing it's subbed.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, cool, but probably not dubbed.
No.
No.
Okay. And from what you're describing, I mean, this sounds like this falls somewhere like between maybe like Sword Art Online and like I guess Oh My Goddess. Like I've never watched that show, but
I haven't seen Oh My Goddess, but Sword Art Online is way like a million times more serious than this show is. I mean, like literally the bad guy, like the overarching bad guy for this world, his name is the Devil King. That's it. It's just you're fighting the Devil King. So it's just as tropey as tropes can be.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's really nothing like Oh My Goddess, because there's like a lot of like actual story there. This one, there's an overarching story, but it's definitely more like if Sword Art Online met like a Lucky Star or some kind of slice of life goofy anime.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's not serious at all. And it's funny because every so often, like there'll be a battle, and then they'll just like change the art style, and it'll look like just the most incredible sort of like Fate Stay Zero or Fate Stay Night kind of animation, and you're sitting there and you're watching, and you're like, is this the same show? And then out of the corner of your eye, you'll see, like the sorceress fall over. You're like, yeah, this is definitely the same show. But just for like a few minutes there with like all of the art, it's like, what is going on? I can see where you spent your entire budget for the show, and it was in these 90 seconds. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And the other thing that I've been playing on my phone is I downloaded Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which has been around for a while. I think it's about a year old now.
Yeah, I remember when Giant Bomb first looked at that.
Yeah, so part of the thing that I've been trying to consciously do is I've been trying to like whenever I pick up my phone, like what I've been doing recently is I've been just reading a lot of news and Reddit and Twitter and stuff like that, and I just decided that for those 10 to 15 minutes, like maybe when I'm in the break room at lunch or something, like I didn't really want to be reading like everything. I just kind of wanted to sort of unplug, but it was hard for me to find something to do that wasn't the big Reddit button on my phone when I'm just standing around. So I downloaded this game, and it has literally every single mobile hook you've ever seen in your life. And it's not, I mean, it's brazen about it too. But actually, the core gameplay is not bad. The gameplay loop is not bad. There are mechanics that do gate your progression without spending money, but there's enough content in the game that even if you don't spend a dime, you can sit down and you can probably play it continuously for about 40 minutes before you hit all those gates, basically. And there's not really a PvP part of the game, so you're not constantly getting outclassed by people who've spent thousands of dollars like you would in some competitive mobile games. It's very just like, you you're playing almost a single player game, basically, with some social hooks, but you're never going to get killed by someone who spent like $1,000. So I would definitely not call it a good game in the sense that I don't play this whenever I am at home when I have other things to do. But if I'm at a burger place and I'm sitting down to eat and I just want something to distract me, this game is probably the best mobile game that I've picked up for that express purpose. And I haven't spent any money in it. I don't plan on it. But that's the other thing that's been sort of I've been picking up and playing it basically every day for the last 2 weeks or so.
I can hear some of that animosity toward PvPs coming out from the really sad time period of our lives when we played Game of War.
Yeah, we played Game of War for a while, and man, when people spend a lot of money, they got a really shiny hero, and they just set my town on fire. And it's like, well, I didn't spend that money, so I guess I'm just going to have a burning village now. And eventually I got tired of my village burning, and I uninstalled the game.
The only way to win.
That's pretty much it. But yeah, this one's different. It's a nice distraction, and if you're looking for something to, just take up a few minutes here or there, especially if you're like on a short sort of bus commute or subway or something like that. Like I played it a lot when I was in DC riding the metro around, and it's good for that. But I wouldn't think anyone would pick up and play this game over anything else that they would have in their house, basically.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that was a long one, but I think we're just about ready to take our first break. And then when we come back, we're going to just touch on a couple of news stories, but we're going to have a quick look back at the Wii U and 3DS, since both of those systems seem to be coming rapidly to a close with the impending launch of the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to get some thoughts on those two systems, and we're going to do that right on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, folks. You're listening to ATACS, episode 8, and we just got done talking about cool stuff, aka video games and anime and things like that, and now we're going to talk about the news, at least very, very briefly. So, not a huge news week. The Switch is right around the corner, so next time that we reconvene, I'm sure it'll be a big news week. But for today, there's really not a whole lot. Nintendo did announce a Breath of the Wild $20 expansion pass, which gets you some DLC packs, which is interesting. That's not something that we've seen Nintendo do before, but for the $20 price tag, getting 2 different DLCs, one in the summer and one in the winter. We'll just have to wait. There's really no more details released about the number of hours of gameplay that these DLCs will be. But this is unique for them to be doing off of one of their major flagship games that's pretty much headlining the entire Switch launch, because there's not a lot of games for the Switch at launch, but there's also no virtual console for the Switch at launch as well. I did go back and do some digging in history, meaning I asked Flex, and the Wii U also did not have the virtual console at launch, so they're
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I feel pretty sure it wasn't there right at launch.
Well,
I think that's right.
Yeah, I heard one of the Giant Bomb guys say it on a podcast today, so it's now officially fact. It doesn't matter what happened, the Wii U did not have virtual console at launch.
That's right, Paul. We write our own history here on ATACS.
We have never mind. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, let's just keep it moving.
So with there being no virtual console at launch, I think that's a little disappointing. I am curious to see what the reasoning for that will be, which I'm sure will be more apparent whenever the virtual console is released, or as they continue to release information on the pricing.
My guess is Yeah, my guess is Nintendo does not have their crap together, and everything's on fire, and nothing's working right.
No way.
I have never seen a company be so surprised by its own console launch. So I don't know. I mean, the thing is, and we've said this before, so I'm not going to harp on it. This thing could be fine. It could be absolutely wonderful. It's going to come out, have great game selection, wonderful infrastructure support. Like, this thing could be just completely A-okay.
Yeah, and I won't go on a tangent here because this is not the Let's Complain About the Virtual Console podcast, but the Virtual Console has had problems from day one.
Yeah. So, we'll just have to see what they end up doing with that. And the last little bit of Switch news is some dude got a Switch, and he showed off the menu, and then Nintendo sent a SWAT team after him, and he doesn't have his Switch anymore. There's been back and forth about what actually happened, how this man actually got a hold of the Switch. I'm going to present the idea that he broke into Nintendo of America's vault, ran in, stole one, and ran out. That's much more interesting than everything I've seen. So we're just going to go with that.
Yeah, there are details about how he got it, but I like that version as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a well-orchestrated heist scenario.
It's actually the basis for Fast and the Furious 9. They're starting it now.
Oh, okay. I was going to go with the opening to The Dark Knight. Probably looked a lot like that.
I think that's exactly it. And actually, the guy that stole it was Bane, and they just haven't reported it.
And then they drove off in their souped-up school bus.
Yeah. And by Nintendo's SWAT team that went and retrieved it, you just mean Reggie.
I mean, look, when I say team, they're Reggie is his own team. He's pretty unstoppable. He's always ready, as he likes to say a lot.
He is a force to be reckoned with.
Some of those words are words. You're right. But that's all for the news, or as it was presented to you here. The thing that we wanted to get into a little bit, a little special feature is, with the Switch coming, the 3DS and the Wii U will go into gaming history. If you listen to Nintendo, they're going to say that the 3DS is still large and in charge in a current console and alive, but no GameStop in the country has any in stock. And I think that says more than anything of what Nintendo says. I'm
actually really curious if that situation's still true, because it's just bizarre.
Well, anecdotally, my local GameStop, I did ask them this last week whenever we went to pick up Hatsune Miku, and the guy said that for new new shipments, they get maybe one a week, and that they haven't had any reliably in stock since Christmas.
Man, that's insane.
Which is, I mean, like I say, that's just my local GameStop anecdote.
You're talking about the 3DS, right? Not the Wii U? Okay.
Yeah.
The Wii U officially stopped production last month.
Okay.
Right, and the 3DS is now just, apparently it's just unattainable. And if you actually go to Amazon or eBay, 3DS XLs have risen in, even the used ones have risen in price. So there's obviously a supply crunch somewhere.
Yeah, I guess just as an aside, and we've seen in the past systems that have kind of fallen out of production, maybe prematurely. Sometimes it causes the value over the long term to kind of shoot up. And for the 3DS, I would, there's still a lot of games in circulation. I would think that that's still a reasonably popular system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least 50, 60 million of those things out there, and there are people who I assume will still want 3DS games. Part of me wonders if maybe I don't know how Nintendo's production lines work, but I almost wonder if they had to slow down 3DS productions to ramp up Switch production. I wonder if there's any shared production line there.
You could see something like that being the case, but we obviously don't know.
Right. And I mean, I have a hard time seeing there being a demand for both a Switch and a 3DS console. I think it's just hard to see. But
over the longer term, I think that would be true. I mean, for me though, if my 3DS broke today, I would seriously consider replacing it. And it sounds like that would be a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's see, everyone on this panel owns a 3DS, and we've all had it for a while, right? I mean, I'm normally the late one to the console train, but I think I got the 3DS maybe a year after it released.
Yeah, it came out in March 2011. I got mine summer 2012.
That's about when I got mine, I think.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember when I got mine. It was sometime after Super Mario 3D Land came out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big thing, that or the big point that I'd like to make about the 3DS is that, you know, that system has an incredible catalog of games.
Mhm.
And I'm in the same boat as Ryan. If my 3DS broke tomorrow, I would be buying another one, not because of any future releases necessarily, but because if I actually dug into the 3DS library and built a backlog list, because I haven't done that just because I've got a big enough list when I pull up Steam. Um, I mean, there's still probably thousands of hours of games on the 3DS that I haven't played that I would enjoy. So as far as a game library goes, I think the 3DS is one of the most impressive systems for sheer library, especially if you reach back into regular DS carts as well.
Yeah, if you also count DS in there, and then yeah, its library, like the DS was just huge library, but even just limiting to the 3DS library, like that system has had a lot of really good games.
Well, I mean,
I think that system's been really strong overall. Like it's easy to overlook it and say like, oh, the Wii U didn't sell that great, Nintendo must be hurting, but the 3DS had a ton of really really good games, and that thing sold a lot of units. So like Nintendo's had a really good system for the past 5-6 years in the 3DS, and I've had tons of fun with the 3DS.
yeah, I was gonna say like the 3DS, like I was still playing like the DS brick, like in 2012. That had like the GBA like
Yeah,
slot and everything.
I have a special place in my heart for that brick.
I love my brick. It held up for so many years and so many bus rides. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm in agreement. The interesting thing about like the 3DS library, and it's not true for all of the platforms, but the retail value of a lot of those games, and I know that this is like really unique to Nintendo in general, but like a lot of the value of those games haven't gone down very much. Like
No.
still buying a Super Mario Brothers 2 or the new Super Mario Brothers 2 would like it's still pretty expensive given how long it's been out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty standard for Nintendo. Their games seem to hold their value pretty well, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But
I mean, but there's a couple of other like non-Nintendo franchises that I feel like
yeah,
also hold the value on the 3DS a lot more than the other systems. Like I'm just thinking about Bravely Default. I mean, Bravely Default, the first one I think is still like $30 new, even though the second one's been out for like 6 months. Now I don't know about the used market, but if you're just gonna go and find new games, generally there's if you're trying to wait for a deal, that might be true for some of the other systems, but the 3DS, all those games just tend to hold their value, at least the ones that I've picked up.
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
that was kind of the point I was going for, so I'm glad you said that. Just in general with 3D, like with a lot of games, especially since I really appreciate a lot of niche games that will go down in value. Um, if I see a game I like for the PS4 or something, I'll just wait a while and go pick it up later. Like I'm okay with being a patient gamer, but if there's something coming out for the 3DS that I like, I just might as well go, like when the Theater Rhythm came out and everything, it's like I might as well just bite the bullet because it's not going to go down in price very much.
yeah. So I have a question of like, doing a retrospective, like is everyone here like pretty we're starting with the 3DS, like I'm curious, like what's everyone's like I'm kind of getting the sense from the discussion that everyone really enjoyed their 3DS. Like is anyone not happy with the 3DS overall, or is everybody pretty satisfied with the system's life?
The only thing I don't understand is why it's 3D. I have never once used the 3D version on that damn thing. The games are great. The system's great. The 3D is so unnecessary, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I feel like that has to be like just kind of a weird like relic from the time frame it came out, which is when 3D was getting big. Like
Yeah.
this thing was in development, in like they were R&Ding and developing this thing when Avatar came out.
Right.
Like
Well, I mean,
The
when we're
thing-
playing the new Pokemon games that came out, like I specifically remember accidentally hitting the 3D little button on the side, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this? What is this?" I thought I broke the game because I forgot that it even existed.
I mean, the good thing is that you're able to forget that it could exist, because one of my kind of frustrations with Nintendo in general is, especially since the Wii, it feels like they're just always looking for a gimmick to get people on board. And I mean, I think it kind of hurt the 3DS too when it first launched, because it did not have a successful launch, and it was really expensive, and who knows how much they spent trying to work in that feature that, like you said, nobody ever used. But I mean, at its core, it's still like a pumped up DS, I guess, a pumped up 2DS. It's just Nintendo really wanted something to differentiate it, so they had to work in that quote unquote 3D.
That is a really good point. That at least you really could ignore it, because I know with some games, like I'm specifically thinking about the Wii. There's so many games where I'm like, I really don't want to use this gimmick. I just want to play this game. So.
Yeah.
So, Nate, you've been pretty quiet. Are you pretty high on the 3DS overall, or did you have frustrations, or?
Yeah, I think overall definitely happy with the 3DS. It did have sort of a rocky start, in which I think a lot of us waited until after that rocky start to jump on it. But
I don't think any of us benefited from the ambassador program.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, it's been super solid for me. Of course, I love Pokemon games, and A Link Between Worlds is a really good Zelda game.
Link Between Worlds is a really good Zelda game.
And
I would say one of the best.
We could go down a list of all the great games, but suffice to say, it has a lot of really good games.
Fire Emblem.
Especially in their key franchises. Yeah, a couple of really good Fire Emblem games.
Yeah, like it has a really strong library. Yeah, I think like Zelda, Pokemon, Fire Emblem are the Nintendo franchises they seem to hit a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of good RPGs from other companies too, like the Monster Hunter games on 3DS did really well. The Shin Megami Tensei games did. A lot of people like Bravely Default as well. And like they still kind of continued some of the traditions from the DS, like Picross and Pushmo and Box Boy made for really good puzzle games. Like
those are all really good.
Yeah, those are all fantastic. The SteamWorld games were really good new additions to the eShop. Mm-hmm. And then like they've continued pumping out Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton games for better or worse. So yeah, it's been really good stuff. I have to give a special shout out to one of my favorite surprises and one of my like fondest memories on the system is the Theat Rhythm games. Those things are a treat. And I guess my other big highlight moment would be Pokemon battling. Like I got really into that. Yeah. In Gen 6. Lots of good times on the 3DS for sure.
Yeah, and even the bits of it that aren't quite. You could get picky with it, with the battery life and stuff like that.
And rightfully so.
But I think all in all, if you're gonna rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd put the 3DS at a solid 9 for me. It been a really good system, and beyond minor complaints, I think it's one of the. It's definitely an example of a system that had a rocky start, and then it recovered, and it's recovered very well. So
yeah, and once it recovered, it was firing on all cylinders and just kept going. Like really good games. And we also neglected to mention 3D Land, but that was also a really good game.
Yeah. 3D Land is awesome.
Yeah, I guess one point, aside from the fact that at its core it's a 2DS, and the 2DS, I guess the touchscreen is kind of a quote unquote gimmick that worked. Just to clarify that I don't want to hit Nintendo too hard on that, but one thing and this might be a good transition into talking about the Wii U, but one other thing I'd like to say about the 3DS is it just feels good to have a system, like we were naming all these games without even really scratching the surface on like Dragon Quest games and all these other things that have made their way to the 3DS. It just feels good to own a system where, like, if you look at it and you think, do I have something to play on this system? And it's like, you don't even have to think about it with the 3DS. Like, you've got downloadable stuff. You've got this whole library of, the value is, the games don't go on sale that often, but if you want to find a good game to play on that, chances are you can find something that tickles your fancy. And that feels pretty good with any system, like to have that much support.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. That's a great point.
Including reboots, compilations. I bought like the Phoenix Wright compilation, or just like original IP, like it has. And
Virtual
Pleasant,
console support.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
But
can get Super Mario Land 2 on the Virtual Console, Paul.
That's right. And
But-
you can get Super Mario Land 1.
that might be a good segue into the other system on our list, which doesn't have such a deep library.
Yeah, like if you want to draw a big contrast between the 3DS and the Wii U, the 3DS, like you said, like you pretty much never had to wonder if there were going to be things to play because there were just always games, good games, and meaty games as well coming out for it. And the Wii U, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Very few games for that system.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good to at some point for you, Flex, to talk about, because you were sort of an early adopter, to talk about whatever experiences you had as an early adopter of the Wii U. But just for me coming in as sort of a late adopter, and I don't want to beat the system up too badly. Like I bought it late. I think I did get it for $250, I think, which is not horrible, but for a 4-year-old system, that's not really cheap either.
Yeah, and you did get 2 games with yours as well.
Yeah, I got a couple games. And I definitely have enjoyed some of the games that I played. Like Super Mario Maker was a fantastic game that kind of finally justified their gimmick that they built the system around. Late in the system's life cycle. Tokyo Mirage Sessions was a lot of fun. It has a lot of party games, which I don't have the ability to take advantage of very easily, being kind of like here in New York, separated from some of my local play group. But it did have some good local titles like Smash and Kart. And I'm hoping to go through this year and pick up a couple things like maybe Pikmin or The Wonderful 101, or maybe even try Fatal Frame, some kind of unique Wii U titles. But yeah, overall, like it's a system where Flex and I were kind of bouncing back and forth, and I was like, hey, I own this system. I played a couple games I like on it. I know its library is not that deep. What are some things you think would be good? And if you take out some of the party game stuff, then really and some personal taste stuff, then really that kind of doesn't leave you with a gigantic library to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nate got this thing on launch.
Yeah, launch day Wii U.
You pre-ordered it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was a few months later, and I've been happy with mine overall in the sense that like I feel like I've played enough good games on it that like I'm happy I bought one. But there are long stretches every year. Like there's basically like 2 or 3 games a year, probably tops, that I play, and like there are stretches of months where I just don't touch the thing.
Yeah.
And like last year, I don't know that I played anything on the Wii U at all. Like I don't think anything came out in 2016. But I mean, there were enough good games for my taste that I enjoyed it. Like Super Mario Maker is, to me, hands down by orders of magnitude like the game for the Wii U. Like that is the thing that more or less makes that system. Like there are definitely plenty of other good games like Mario Kart and Pikmin and Donkey Kong and Smash and Bayonetta 2 and 3D World. Like there's definitely some good games on there. But a lot of those are kind of more the same. Like Mario Maker is the thing that's like, oh, like this is like if Mario Maker hadn't come out, I would feel way worse about the Wii U than I do right now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the only game I could say that for, but it's definitely a slim library. Like Nintendo systems for at least since the 64 have been like, or their consoles, excluding their handhelds, but their consoles from the 64 on have very much been like, you need to like first party Nintendo games. I feel like the Wii U has been that more than any system so far. But yeah, what's your overall shake on the Wii U, Nate, since you were literally a day one adopter?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much the same boat as you, I think. I overall am happy with the Wii U. I don't regret buying it. I've had plenty of good games, but definitely those long periods where I don't touch it at all or whatever. My highlights are definitely Smash Bros. I think that's the best version of Smash Bros. By a pretty solid margin, and I love me some Smash Bros. Mario Maker is very good, and I liked some of the other weirder ones.
Oh, I forgot to mention Zombie U.
Yeah, like Zombie U was a great launch title
That
for
game was
that
great.
system.
There was a weird like magic to the launch of this system.
Yeah.
In that, like there was almost nothing for it, and nobody really seemed to care. But
Zombie U is
playing
amazing.
Zombie U and Nintendo Land on day one was like a weirdly entrancing thing.
Yeah, those were two good launch games. Like Nintendo Land's not a good game, but it was a good launch
It's got Mario
game.
Chase.
Yeah. So I had fun with it at launch, and then probably didn't play it anymore for a while after that because I don't remember what came out around that time period. But
I think the next thing was like Pikmin 3 that next summer.
Pikmin 3 was pretty good.
Yeah, Pikmin 3 was a lot of fun.
But it's
like you really just get those 2, maybe 3 games a year for about a 3 or 4 year span, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, and like I really liked Wonderful 101 a good amount, so that was a get for me for my tastes. But it's still it's still a sparse system for sure. But definitely don't regret having it. I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I think the system is that like I think it's Nintendo's weakest console to date.
Yeah, probably true.
Unless you want to throw the Virtual Boy in that bucket.
Yeah.
I think the Wii, like excluding the Virtual Boy, I think the Wii U is very easily actually their worst console to date.
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm happy I have one because for my taste, there are just enough games that made it justifiable. But man, if there had been no Mario Maker and then like 1 or 2 less of the other games, like I'm like it's kind of just barely over that hump of being worth it for me, I think.
Yeah.
But I think it does clear that hump. Like I am happy to have owned one. Like I enjoyed enough games on it.
Yeah, and for me, I never owned a Wii U. I actually looked into it this past Christmas because I knew that the system was coming to a close. So I started looking through the library, and there's definitely some stuff there that was interesting, but still not enough to make me pull the trigger on purchasing one. But again, that's just my video game preferences are slightly different from someone like Flex's. So.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to like Nintendo, enough first-party Nintendo properties. I mean, there are a few third-party things that were good, like Bayonetta 2 and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but like other than a like 3 or 4 games like in that mold, like it's really just like, hey, do you like Smash Bros and Pikmin and Donkey Kong and Mario? Like, if you don't like enough of those things, then you can forget it.
Right. So, all right, guys. Well, I think that probably just about wraps it up for us.
I think I gotta go out in my backyard and set my Wii U and 3DS on fire. They're done.
There you go. There you go. There's nothing wrong with that.
They don't deserve that.
Sacrifice them for the luck of the Switch.
Yeah.
It is
Good
like
sacrifice.
You should record
despite
it
all the
on YouTube and send it to Reggie.
Despite all of the Wii U's
Switch
problems,
better
I do
be
have
better.
a weird fondness for the thing.
Yeah. I'll always have a fondness for the Wii U and all its weirdness and lack of.
I acknowledge all its problems, but yeah.
Sure. Well, Nate.
And we'll see how the Switch does replacing it.
Yep.
Well, Nate, before you run off, let us know. Do you have anything that you're planning on picking up and playing over the next couple of weeks?
Well, so I have Horizon Zero Dawn coming in the mail on Tuesday.
All right.
But hearing the initial impressions of Zelda, which is coming out on Friday, I'm kind of like wondering if I should just put off starting Horizon so that I can jump right on Zelda. So that's what I'm going to be tackling in my brain for the next 2 days.
Okay. That's a good choice to have.
Yeah.
So I'm sure whichever way that you go, you're not going to be terribly disappointed.
Yeah.
Flex, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to be making that same debate because both of those games are sounding fantastic. For right now, I think my plan is I'm going to keep keep rolling with Nioh and also keep rolling with Rondo of Blood because that game's also fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep rocking those 2 games, and I think I've already made the decision that I'm going to hold off on Horizon despite that game looking really good. And I will tackle Zelda next as well because that game is also sounding fantastic. I did pre-order a Switch, so in theory, fingers crossed, if all goes right, I'm scheduled to get it next Monday. What is that, March 6th or something?
Yeah.
So if all goes according to plan, I will basically be playing Nioh and Rondo of Blood until that day, and then I will be diving headfirst into some Zelda.
All right. Brian?
I plan on continuing with FF2, probably wrap that up, and probably play some more Crypt of the Necrodancer. I did order Horizon Zero Dawn actually today, this afternoon, so I might get it a little later. But Zelda does look great, and I probably will be getting a Switch in the long term. But I think I'm gonna let the system play out a few months and maybe get some supply back in stock, and then see if it's good to pull the trigger. And if not, I have the Wii U to play Breath of the Wild on.
Sure. All right, Steph, what about you?
All Miku all the time until Persona 5 eventually comes out.
Steph wins.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just going to stay on the trails of Cold Steel. And one day I will get done with that game.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Lies.
I mean,
I don't believe it.
We're gonna find out. I actually noticed that the first time that I ever picked it up was, I think, last April. So I've owned the game for almost a year and have been playing it just off and on.
Okay.
And I mean, it's more on than off now because I actually want to finish it. But it'd be great if I could get that done sooner rather than later, because I'm feeling a little bit of an itch for a 4X space game. So I've started playing Armada 2526 and Endless Space, and no one's heard of either of those, and that's okay.
I played Endless Space.
Okay. Well, I'll be talking
I
about
own
that.
Endless Space.
Yeah,
I have not played it.
I own Endless Space from a 2014 Steam sale, and I just installed it yesterday. So hooray, Steam! And yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, have some more to report there. Send me Steam messages if you see me playing Stardew Valley. I don't need to put any more time into that.
Paul, stop! Intervention.
So anyway, but yeah, that's going to wrap up our show. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you, panel members, for joining in. And we will be back in about 2 weeks for ATACS episode number 9. So we will be seeing all of you guys then. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thanks, Paul.